The king of unemployment. Asmongold. Asmons.
Goo goo gaga.
It's your boy Asmongold.
Round one. Ready, go!
A rainy day keeps the shower away.
As hostile. I think you're absolutely right, and it's really sad for me to see this happen. I mean, again, I've never been I'm not a trans disliker. Like, how is a parent trying to groom their kid into being trans at 2 and 3 years old? That's insane. Transgenderism, because any normal, well-reasoned, well-intentioned, good person can clearly see the difference between a biological woman and a trans woman. A lot of people don't agree with transgenderism. Welcome to reality. I'm not transphobic. When I see a person and they're trans and their kid that's like prepubescent is also trans, I assume that they got groomed to be trans. I do.
Whoa, this one is long overdue. Hey,
Asmons.
Sup, y'all? It's me. It's your boy Asmongold.
you smell and it's not very
Hygienic.
It's like a sweaty watch strap.
Nah, it's more like raw chicken and rancid milk in a plastic bag.
Yeah, that's been left in the sun for a week.
Okay, now that we have your smelliness covered, let's move on to your personality.
Asmongold, a streamer known for his gaming content, or WoW or whatever, I don't really know. I used to watch him for his React content, which I found pretty entertaining and funny at the time.
Adam and Eve are just a parable. God is the Lord of lies. God himself is a lie. What's the worst thing that Satan ever did? He tried to reason with Jesus. Hail Satan!
Wow. You know what my favorite part about this is? Is the preacher for the church looks exactly how you would expect. It's like if you were wondering like, oh, who's the preacher for like, you know, Satanism or whatever, it's this guy. Like, oh yeah, of course that's the guy, right? Like, obviously that's what it is. Yeah, he's got death metal practice after that. Yeah, he listens to Buddhism on his way home. It's that simple.
But ever since he got into making way more political content on his channel, I don't really mind it because I was like, it's cool. Sure, he has like some bad takes here and there, but I don't really care. Until I realized his political content began to get worse and worse as the days went on. It would be bad take after bad take.
Every trans kid is actually a victim of a parent with a mental illness. Yeah. If you're telling parents that their teen daughter has to dress out in front of a man, they're not voting for you.
And then I realized this dude's talking a lot about trans people now. And his takes on trans people are some of the most brain dead and honestly most transphobic comments I've ever heard in my life. Take for example, the Worcester, Massachusetts City Council hearing, where they had trans people and trans activists speaking to the council being like, hey dudes, we're not feeling really safe around Trump right now. He's kinda coming for us. Could you please make this a sanctuary city for us? And of course, Asmon had the most humane and honestly level-headed takes ever.
I need the city to protect me because the federal government won't. And if you think you're afraid of Trump, you should see how afraid of Trump I am.
Can you wrap up, please?
Yeah. I can. If you say that you're afraid of Trump and that's why you don't want the city to be a safe space for trans people, you better prepare for trans people to make this a very unsafe space.
I'm shaking.
I'm not really sure if that's a good argument that if you don't give us what we want, we're going to incite terrorism.
Oh, that's great. As we go further into the video, he gives a pretty great take on Nazi book burnings.
Let us remember that the Nazis burned the books that the Nazis burned books on gender sciences.
They did do that.
Oh, thank God. I thought you were going to say some dumb stank right now.
First. Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers. Trans.
It's a bit of a miss. Like, my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German.
Great. Oh, cool. What's your source for that, Asmon? Okay, let's fact check this then. The books the Nazis burned were books that were written by Magnus Hirschfeld. Magnus Hirschfeld was a leading figure in writing books about sex, sexuality, and gender, and the Nazis didn't really like that all that much. He was a regular target of the Nazis. They didn't like him so much that they would regularly target him and his institute. And since he was both Jewish and a doctor who wrote about sex, sexuality, and gender, yeah, Nazis would really target him often. And because the Nazis viewed Hirschfeld's work as un-German, they would regularly attack him and destroy his works on sex and gender. In 1933, when Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany, Hirschfeld was forced to live in exile and relocate to France because, you know, the Nazis were just like really targeting him, so he eventually just had to leave Germany. Then on May 6, 1933, a group of Nazi students marched to the Institute of Sexual Science in Berlin with members of the SA. They ransacked and looted Hirschfeld's library and archives. They then stole all of his books, artifacts, and clinical files, which were then destroyed in several public book burnings. They even had a bust of Hirschfeld, which was paraded around the streets, which was then eventually thrown into the fire. Months later, the Nazi authorities forced the Institute for Sexual Science to be closed. And this comes back to addressing Asmon's false claim that Nazis burned those books because they were written in Jewish. Hirschfeld's work was written in German. His studies were about sex and gender, which the Nazis viewed as un-German. And when the Nazis viewed something as un-German, it just basically meant, oh hey, I don't like that, get that out of my country. So it's insane for Asmon to pull this absolute brain dead take out of nowhere. Like, dude, where are you getting, what's your source? I hate it when he fucking does it. He doesn't even provide a source, doesn't give any resource to show like, oh hey, this is what proves my claim.
Workers, trans.
It's a bit of a miss. Like, my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German. And it was like a retaking of Germany for Germans. That was like the uprising of the Nazis. So it was like, yeah, they were. I think it probably might be both in some circumstances, but like it was categorical for it not being written in German. They also burned porn. Yeah, they burned a lot of stuff. It was both, yeah. And no, a lot. And I wish people like this. It's disappointing that you can't have genuine conversations because people try to just like kind of, like handpick facts and like not talk about things in an honest way. But it's like part of that's true, but it's like not completely true.
Hey Asmon, you're like literally cherry picking facts right now. You're saying that the Nazis did not target books that were about trans people. What do you think you're doing right now, dude? And of course, when people saw this clip of Asmon saying the Nazis did not burn books about trans guys, they simply just burned those books because they were written in Jewish. A lot of people on the internet got angry at him, rightfully so. And did he apologize for it and say, hey guys, you know, I was wrong, I'm sorry? No, he just doubled down. He then plays this video that talks about the Nazi book burnings.
In April, Nazi German students decided to organize a nationwide book burning program to eliminate foreign influence, to purify German culture as they saw it.
That's right.
So you have committees of students.
So this is exactly what I said.
Meeting with professors together, deciding what categories of books in these university libraries.
Let's get to the categories.
Would count as un-German. They didn't see themselves as suppressing
un-German. Let's go back and watch the original clip. And it was like a retaking of Germany for Germans. That was like, this is, again, my source for this is the Holocaust Museum of the United States.
Like Asmon, no, literally, you did not say that. You said they were burned because they were written in Jewish, which they were not.
Now the administration has villainized and marginalized migrant workers, trans.
It's a bit of a miss. Like, my understanding is that they burned them not because it was gender stuff, but because it was written in Jewish and not German.
To purify German culture as they saw it.
So you have committees of students meeting with professors together, deciding what categories of books in these university libraries would count as un-German. They didn't see themselves as suppressing culture, they saw themselves as advancing Aryan German culture.
Un-German to Nazis meant anything that they just did not like, which was studies on sexuality and gender. Nazis did not like that at all. They hated that stank.
Ideology book. And then also, Hassan would probably, I don't know if Hassan knows this or not, Hassan would be very upset to hear this. They also burned some of, Karl Marx. They burned Lenin. They burned Trotsky. They burned a lot of communist books as well. Yeah, not Marx. Yeah, they did. They got rid of them.
That they were all considered dangerous by the Nazis.
Yes.
reading about Anne Frank, they discover that they are that little girl, and that what happened to that little girl was a supreme act of injustice.
This is, I mean, like, I guess maybe we won't make the Houthi joke, but like, man, it's really hard not to, isn't it? It's really hard not to.
Literally like talking to Anne Frank, basically, okay? Being able to talk to Anne Frank.
So they connect to her in a way that no political sermon or propaganda could effect. And for tyrants, control is the main thing. They don't like this unpredictability. They don't want the citizens to connect to the unknown parts of themselves, of their past, and to connect to the world.
So for a totalitarian...
That's again why people want to get me banned too. It's because I talk about things in ways that people don't approve of, and so they want to destroy my platform and get me in trouble because they don't want me to be able to have a voice.
This is the most annoying part. Literally, dude is trying to victimize himself. He eventually does concede and realizes that, okay, he misspoke, but still, he doesn't really correct himself fully by saying, okay, the Nazis did target trans people. He still just goes on to say it was just un-German things.
And yes, I did misspeak with saying it was in Jewish. That's very fair. But I think that that's not really the focus of what the conversation was about, and only the most dishonest person would focus on that instead of what the actual context was and the actual meaning behind it. With a lot of these people, if they're worried that they're unhappy that, you know, my content is doing well, etc., maybe they should think about why that is.
Children, save the children. 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 Save the children.
Now, when Asmon talks about trans people, he also really likes talking about trans kids. And the stank he says about trans people who have kids or trans kids who are supported by their parents is some of the most vile stank I've heard in my life, dude. If you thought dudes like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh love using the word grooming, you haven't heard Asmon using it. The way he uses the word grooming when talking about a trans child or a parent who supports their trans child, it's so fucking gross. For example, Asmon said, if you're a parent who has a kid who is under 17 and they identify as trans, the parent is mentally ill.
Every trans kid is actually a victim of a parent with a mental illness. Yeah. That's what I believe. And so, like, I really, and this, you got a kid that's like 17, right? I mean, it's a little bit more, you know, it's like not really as definitive. But like, if you have a kid that's like pre-puberty and they're trans, your parents have a mental illness. And this is something that a lot of people need to hear.
Not all of it comes off as brain dead and transphobic, because when you say that, you're literally saying that a kid being trans is a flaw, and that flaw exists because of their parents' mental illness. Do you understand that? And you're saying that a parent supporting their child being trans is in a way harming that child, which research shows the total opposite of what you're saying, dude. Because when a parent supports their trans child, it shows that they have a better outcome of mental health, similar to like cisgender children, with lower levels of depression and anxiety. That sounds like a good thing to me, rather than, you know, being like, oh hey, you're trans, go fuck yourself, I hate you now. Instead of a parent rejecting their child for being trans, which can lead to high levels of anxiety, potential homelessness if they're kicked out by their parents, and also a higher percentage of drug usage. I don't think that's such a good thing now, is it?
Fact is that it's a 99-1. It's an extreme situation, and especially like we're talking about, like, you know, I said like pre-puberty, and this is really the logic, right? Is that so pretty much you have like the idea of being trans is tied to gender roles, but when you don't even understand what your own gender role is because it doesn't exist, because you're pre-puberty and you haven't even, you know, gone through any sort of like sexual development at all, how could you know that you don't have, how could you know that this is not correlated to what you want? Well, guess what? The reason why is because you have an adult whispering in your ear telling you it's not.
Yeah, again, this is another moment where I just realized Asmon really does not know what he's talking about. First off, trans kids do not learn gender identity from gender roles. That makes no sense. So what now? You're telling me like by following traditional gender roles, that's how you find out what your gender identity is? When actually, trans kids learn their gender identity by the adults and older kids around them. You know, they just see like how others perform gender around them, like their father, their mom, their older sibling, older cousins, things like that. And then they're like, oh stank, I feel like my gender identity is more like that rather than gender roles, which makes completely no sense.
And the funny thing is that people said that what I said was transphobic. Do you know what? You want to know the real people that I think are transphobic? Or the ones pushing this stuff? Because this is the kind of stuff that's going to alienate average people against trans people that just want to live their lives as adults as the other gender.
And for some reason, he doesn't view it as transphobic to say this. And it's like, yeah, Asmon, you are transphobic for saying that. Because you're saying a trans child is, by your definition, mentally ill. Which is you saying that trans kids are mentally ill for being trans.
Despite numerous lies from TERF, puberty blockers are safe, reversible, and have less lasting side effects than giving no treatment would have. How could no treatment have side effects? What? What the hell are you talking about? Transitioning saves lives. Transitioning earlier means being able to transition more successfully. Well, let me go. Well, let's think about this in the right way. So if transitioning saves lives and transitioning earlier is better, and you think gender identity develops around 3 to 5, should 3-year-olds be getting transitioned? Should 5-year-olds be getting transitioned? Uh-oh. That's an FBI moment. And it should be. Where do these people come from?
Yeah, dude, they already are transitioning, which is just a simple social transition for children who are prepubescent. They simply just do, you know, a name change.
Who's Zach? I am. Oh. Gumball's called Zach now. So?
Change of clothing, pronouns, you know, they might go by she, her now, or he, him. Might go by the name like Jeffrey now instead of Sarah, you know, like simple stuff like that. There's not really anything else for like trans kids who are like prepubescent.
When a person, this is also the truth, is that trans people, do you want to know one of the reasons why trans people have high rates of it's because society treats them like that's one of the reasons. And so when you have somebody who categorically is signing up for getting harassed, hated, with for their whole life, and they decide, you know what, maybe I don't want to sign up to get attacked by this massive group of people. Not always? Wow, not always. Thanks a lot for that. I didn't... Wow, okay, thank you.
This comes so performative, dude, because you literally were just agreeing with Bill Maher right now, saying like, hey, trans and queer kids should be forcibly outed to their parents.
I see today the Trump administration is... They talked about, I don't know if this is true, but they talked about the fact that California had a rule that schools cannot be required to notify parents if their kids in school have changed their gender, their pronouns. That's the kind of thing, even though it doesn't affect a lot of people, that makes a lot of people go, well, you know what, that's the party without common sense. Now,
Bill Maher is 100% right about this. He's 100% right. 200% right. Probably even more than that.
Research shows that outing kids to their parents is a risky thing to do because you never know what that parent will be accepting or not. And kids with unaccepting parents are more likely to be kicked out, abused, or even committed.
Is that trans people, do you want to know one of the reasons why trans people have high rates of... It's because society treats them like...
Shut the fudge up, you do not fucking care about trans people.
Are you going to get people to stop being trans?
I think we're going to tell boys that they're not girls,
so we're
that they're
going to
boys.
tell boys that they're not girls, and they're going to listen.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what we've done for most of
Because that happened to me, and I can promise you to God that I didn't listen.
Yeah, well...
What a surprise. Something that usually works doesn't always work.
Well, because we live at a time that is affirming the transgender delusion. But if we lived at a more sensible time, probably you would have listened, and you might have had some... And I think we should just return to a more sensible kind of politics.
But how? What is yours? You're not giving a solution on how you would even be capable of doing something.
I am.
I'm pretty sure he's giving the solution very plainly.
We kicked the fellas out of the boys' bathroom. We kicked the transgender teaching out of schools.
How are you going to do that? That's easy. What do you mean?
We just enforce the law as it was before 2015.
There was a law prohibiting trans women to go into the women's bathroom or trans men going into the men's bathroom.
Yeah, it's there in the term women's bathroom.
That's a law.
Is that trans people, do you want to know one of the reasons why trans people have high rates of... It's because society treats them like...
Yeah, totally not transphobic. Totally cares about trans people coming... Even though he's laughing along with a motherfucker like Michael Knowles.
If transgenderism is false, as it is, if men really can't become women, as they cannot, then it's false for everybody too. And if it's false, then we should not indulge it. Especially since that indulgence requires taking away the rights and customs of so many people. If it is false, then for the good of society, and especially for the good of the poor people who have fallen prey to this confusion, Transgenderism must be eradicated from public life entirely. The whole preposterous ideology.
Asmongold is a real issue when covering topics about trans people. I think it's really important that you fact check it, give resources and factual resources that'll better educate people on trans people, especially trans kids, because conservatives love talking about trans kids as a fudging political talking point. Enter Jeff Younger. Jeff Younger is a father from Texas who was in a legal battle against his ex-wife for the custody of his 2 children, which one of them is trans. Jeff could not accept the fact that his daughter was trans, that he basically ran with the lie that his ex-wife is the reason why his daughter is trans. She's the one brainwashing his child into thinking that she's trans.
Started thinking that he might be a girl and started trying to transition him to a girl. And when I tried to put a stop to that, she filed for divorce and used her relationships with care providers to force me out of my house. And so I moved about a mile up the road from my sons. She filed for divorce formally, and I had 50-50 custody of him. And just after his 3rd birthday, you know, I took the first iPhone video I'd ever taken, and it was him telling me that he thought he was a girl because his mommy tells him a girl. You can go on YouTube and just search for "Mommy Says I'm a Girl." You'll find that video. She was telling him things like, you know, she would put him into timeout and say, "Don't be a boy. The monsters only eat boys," and weird things like this. And she began to then socially transition him, and that led to a titanic battle in the state of Texas.
He even had a website which had images of his daughter in boys' clothing and also had a dead name. Even on his website, he stated that he was running because of this reason. I find it incredibly insane to think that your child is being brainwashed by her mother to think that she's trans. And when looking at this article over here, he has a history of lying, which makes it especially harder to believe that he's telling the truth when he says his child is being brainwashed by her mother. In interviews with the teachers, counselors, and Luna herself and her brother have stated that she does identify as a girl and she's always wanted to be a girl, and it's not being forced upon her. Looking into Younger's story, it doesn't seem that he cares about his child. It more likely seems that he just cared about targeting trans children and taking away the rights of trans children, which he's already succeeded in by getting help from Greg Abbott by having one of the clinics that treat trans children get shut down. And then we get to Asmongold reacting to the story.
And that's what he told the counselors too. James is a very talented boxer.
By the way, this is the reason why people call it a woke mind virus. This is like straight up a perversion of the mind.
My main issue with Asmond reacting to the story, he did not put any effort into doing any research, fact-checking it, looking into the story. He just simply watched the video, took Jeff's word and went.
I have 2 sons, James and Jude. They're twins. They're not identical.
Okay.
James is the one that she's transitioning.
And was there any sign in James that he was open to this or showing signs that he wanted to be anything other than...
Well, you know, it's interesting. So he was directly asked that by counselors and stuff, but...
How are counselors asking a child what gender they think they are? What's going on? How is this? This is insane. He's brainwashed. Yeah, also, like, of course you have a kid. Like, if the mom is sitting there this is like you have kids that are like radical, you know, religious people, right? Like kids that are like hyper racist. If you have a 5-year-old that's hyper racist and they know a bunch of racial slurs, they didn't spawn in that way, man. They had a little bit of help. I mean, I don't know why it's so hard to understand. Dude's going to jail for his baby mama's child abuse. Convincing a child it's the opposite gender is a form of sexual abuse, ladies and gentlemen. I'll die on this hill and give it. Yeah, well, the thing is that you need to start charging people for it. Because, again, the reason why this stuff happens is because... So, let me explain why this happens. I think that a lot of people have these viewpoints and they try to transition... I'm just going to say it. I think that a lot of people try to transition their kids for social points. I think they do. And I actually think it's that simple. They try to transition their kids for social points, or they do it because this is some ideology and the kid plays along with it because it's a good way for the kid to get attention from the parents, right?
Wow! Amazing commentator. Dude, literally, what the heck do you mean by she gets social points by having a trans kid? She literally got harassed for just defending her own child. He only reacted to the first 8 minutes of this interview. I found the full interview and holy stank, this dude just said the most nonsensical things in this interview.
The entire Texas Republican establishment fought me on it. They did not want to take a vote on this. And the reason for that may surprise you. The transgender movement was started by Republicans, was not started by Democrats. Yeah, we could talk about that. But with what the pattern that you see is with boys, it's mothers transitioning prepubescent boys, and they put them on puberty blockers. And there's a simple reason that the gender doctors have to put these kids on puberty blockers. And the reason is puberty is the cure for gender dysphoria. Puberty is when you come to grips with your gender role and you either become gay or a boy.
It will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders,
gay and boy.
Thank you, Iowa. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Iowa.
Puberty is the cure for gender dysphoria, which is the exact opposite because puberty is what causes trans children gender dysphoria, which is why they take certain medication to be more aligned with their gender. Because going through an unwanted puberty causes trans children to feel alienated in their own body that they don't identify with. Now, the clip he loves using the most is the clip where he's recording his child asking her, "Why do you think you're a girl?" "Because mommy told me so." This clip makes no sense because this child has been diagnosed with gender dysphoria by multiple therapists, and Asmon's transphobic commentary on trans children doesn't only end there. When looking at the school board hearing about a mother who's being literally transphobic to a child, talking about they're allowing a biological male to change in the same changing room as my daughter.
Hello, my name is Nicole Georges, and I'm here to demand that the locker rooms and bathrooms at District 109 be designated as biological male and biological female, as there already is a gender-neutral option. The girls want their locker rooms and bathrooms back. They want their privacy back. This is why I'm here tonight. My 13-year-old daughter's well-being and mental health and privacy is at stake. This nightmare began on February 5th when my daughter was using the girls' bathroom and was stunned that a biological male student was using it as well. She came home frightened and was extremely upset. Allowing biological males to access girls' locker rooms sets a dangerous precedent that erodes the very foundation of female privacy and safety. By making this decision, the school board is not only disregarding the concerns of young female students and making their families, but also establishing a legal and policy.
By the way, this is a topic that people choose to vote off of. So it doesn't matter what your policy is on Israel or Palestine or Ukraine or anything like that. If you're telling parents that their teen daughter has to dress out in front of a man, they're not voting for you.
It's so gross to be talking about children changing. Why are we even talking about this? It's honestly ridiculous that this is at a school hearing. Again, he's totally not transphobic, guys, even though he's calling a child, a virgin trans girl, a man.
If you're telling parents that their teen daughter has to dress out in front of a man.
And also, this conversation about trans people in the bathroom is such a ridiculous conversation because it leads to nothing but hate towards trans people and especially physical violence towards trans people. Because trans people will literally be just attacked for using the bathroom that aligns with their gender identity. And again, Asmongold, the dude who says he's not transphobic, is agreeing with this woman over here saying, hey, get this child out of the virgin girl's locker room. When you're literally just aiding and spreading this hateful rhetoric, dude.
Thank you. Everybody, yep, there it is. Why are you looking at children's genitals? Nice try. Nice try. No, that's not gonna work.
Nobody was born you or you're talking. Yeah, dude, obviously that pen's gonna bring up why are you people looking at children's genitals? Because you're obsessing over getting a trans child kicked out of a locker room that signs with their gender identity. How do you think that comes off? Then anytime you try and just get Asmongold to sympathize with trans people, he'll say this is just emotional blackmail.
What they can do, so this is the problem, is that people that are like this, they have no foundation for any of their thinking other than emotional, illogical, stupid reasoning. So the only way that they can respond is by basically trying to misrepresent you in a way that's hyperbolic, that makes you seem like the dumb one. They have to, they misinterpret you intentionally.
Asmon, dude, you just show a little bit of empathy towards trans people. You live in a country that is actively trying to take the rights of trans people, and you can't just give a smidge of empathy.
I think that these people do a tremendous disservice to the trans community, and the inclusion and the fixation on trying to indoctrinate and make trans issues accessible to and relevant to minors is such an unpopular issue that I think they are doing irreparable damage to the trans community, and they will cause people to straight up hate trans people. And it's already happening.
Actually, Asmon, you're the one doing a disservice to trans people, because literally you are just pushing this harmful rhetoric about trans people, and the parents of trans people say that trans kids are children who are just being groomed into being trans, which is such a disgusting thing to say about trans people, dude.
It's really shocking that left-wing people like pay any credibility to this at all. About like basically child grooming. Like, and I guess I like, when I see a person and they're trans and their kid that's like prepubescent is also trans, I assume that they got groomed to be trans. I do. I assume that they got raised that way, and it's the same thing as the other video, and I'm sure that there are cases where that's not true. But I think that there's a lot of them where it is true.
But just 5 years later, medically transitioning kids has been completely normalized.
Estrogen treatment is irreversible and would make Josie sterile. But Josie and her mother never doubted it was the right thing until an unexpected conversation happened one afternoon.
But on the inside, where nobody else can see,
Yeah.
are you a boy or are you a girl?
Maybe I'm a boy inside and a girl outside.
Really?
Yeah, is that true?
Only.
So, you might not understand why this is happening, and you might not get it, but I'm going to go ahead and explain a little bit of it, just so you guys can see it. So, Munchausen by proxy is when women generally, or a parent decides that their kid, a caretaker, fabricates or induces an illness in a child, is disproportionately committed by women. Studies show that over 90% of perpetrators are female, with mothers being the most common. And once you understand what this mental problem is, this happening makes perfect sense. Everything about that is the missing puzzle piece that puts all of this together, in my opinion.
You know the answer to that.
Sometimes I think I'm a boy sort of, but I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Dr. Olson had a decision.
You are in the perfect place to start on blockers.
And she promises to begin giving her estrogen, female hormones, in 2 years.
Around 13.
Wow. Wow.
That's what I think. You're not going to wait until 16 to start. You know that, okay?
A lot of times it strikes me that had this happened just 20 years ago,
Thank you.
I wouldn't have been able to give her blockers and she would have had to go through male puberty. That terrifies me. It's all done. Do you want a hug? I don't know that she would have survived male puberty.
I'm not really sure how these people have it in their head that it's okay to allow a young child to make a permanent decision.
It's all white people.
The little girl you just saw in that out of context clip is Josie Romero, who now goes by Sadie Croft. This is a clip that transphobes love using to justify why trans kids are being transitioned against their will and why medical transition for trans children should be criminalized. This clip has been used by people like Libs of TikTok.
C'est magnifique creme de la creme drip status. Look, what are those though? Not even doing the meme, but what are those?
And Marjorie Taylor Greene.
They just want you to think that all of a sudden the entire population is steadily turning gay or turning trans, just generation. Probably in about 4 or 5 generations, no one will be straight anymore. Everyone will be either gay or trans or non-conforming or whatever the list of 50 or 60 different options there are.
What you're watching is one of the greatest medical scandals in modern history. Thousands of kids and adolescents sold the lie that they're born in the wrong body, and if they permanently alter their body, they can be happy. This video should infuriate you. This is child abuse. Congress must pass my bill. Okay, I'm sorry, I can't do the fudging voice. This is child abuse. Congress must pass my bill. Protect Children's Innocence Act to make it illegal to perform this on children. Now, this clip of Josie is a clip of her receiving puberty blockers. Now, the reason why she was crying in that clip is not because she's receiving puberty blockers and she doesn't want to receive it. She's only crying in that clip because she has a fear of needles, which most children do. But of course, since it's a trans child, transphobes have to take it and be like, look at this. This child is terrified. This child is terrified. How could they? They're being forcibly transitioned, which is such a transphobic thing to do. Simply because transphobes just hate trans children, so will do anything to justify their hatred towards trans children. Now in the video that Asmon's reacting to, this dude goes on to say that the child expressed heavy doubt with being trans.
Like that, especially considering that the child expressed pretty heavy doubt, and maybe that's the best cue to not put your kid on life-altering medications when they turn 13.
Seems more like we're experimenting on children like the Nazis did, though.
It does seem a little suspect, I agree.
I mean, imagine if a Nazi scientist came forward and said, but the kids really want it.
And this can be easily disproven when you see the full context of that conversation she was having with her mother.
Estrogen treatment is irreversible and would make Josie sterile. But Josie and her mother never doubted it was the right thing until an unexpected conversation happened one afternoon.
But on the inside, where nobody else can see?
Yeah.
Are you a boy or are you a girl?
Maybe I'm a boy inside and a girl outside.
Really?
Yeah, is that true?
Only you know the answer to that. So if you wanted to grow up to be a man,
Yeah.
would you tell me?
Yeah.
Hey, if you wanted to grow up and be a man, you could.
I want to be... Sometimes I think I'm a boy, sort of, but I want to be a girl.
Yeah.
Will you love me if I'm a boy?
Of course. I would love you no matter what. I always have, and I always will.
You and your mom were talking, she was combing your hair. You said to her, would you still love me if I was a boy?
Oh, yeah, that.
Why did you ask her that?
You know, my dad, when I started to change, he was a little sad because he wanted his little boy back. I didn't want the same thing to happen to my mom, like being sad all the time.
Josie and her psychologist discussed that moment of wavering, and just a few weeks shy of her 11th birthday, she told us she never really changed her mind. She still really wants to be a girl.
But of course, Asmon will not go out looking for the full context or the full story. So he'll just simply say that parents who help their children transition should be punished for affirming their child's identity.
The one thing that keeps me happy is that we're moving closer to a place where eventually people who do this are going to start getting punished for it. Especially,
I think they should be. And I think they should be retroactively punished for it too. I find this to be just like absolutely disgusting behavior, and I don't know why people are putting up with it. I think that they believe they're doing a good thing, but I don't think that anything could be worse than this, in fact.
Sadie's story has been used by conservatives multiple times just to simply push the narrative that trans children are not really trans and we should outlaw it. Even though now Sadie Croft has grown up and continues to live authentically despite the ongoing debate surrounding her childhood transition. Transphobes simply use the story to just push their hateful transphobic narrative that trans children are not really trans.
Now, what about people, Josie, who watch this and say, you know what, she's going through a phase in her life?
I say, no, I'm gonna stay like a girl because this is who I truly am.
What? You're shocked because mommy is now at school to keep me in check? You're shocked because no one has to be scared of me anymore and all I have left is big talk? You're shocked because Mr. Fist's license to punch has been permanently revoked?
No, dude, we're shocked because Coach is a woman?
Natalie B Fitness is a fitness influencer with a large following on TikTok who opened up her own gym, which was a gym meant only for women. But she got massive backlash for stating that her gym is only for biological women. And obviously when Asmon heard this story, he was like,
based. absolutely base.
Now the confusing thing about Natalie is that she has openly supported trans people. When looking back at her earlier TikToks, she stated that trans women and non-binary people were welcome into the gym.
Adds another layer to this conversation is that many years ago when Natalie first proposed this idea for this gym, it was presented as this very inclusive space where trans people would be welcome.
Trans women are welcome at my women's only gym. I don't see trans women as trans women, I see trans women as women. And if you identify as a woman, then you're of course welcome.
But out of nowhere, she stated now that only biological women are allowed into the gym.
Only gym, the girl spot will be operating as a single sex space, so it'll be female only. So at this current time, it won't be trans inclusive.
Now she stated that she's not being transphobic because she does support trans people. She just only wants biological women in the gym because she was in the gym.
My women's only gym, the girl spot will be operating as a single sex space, so it'll be female only. So at this current time, it won't be trans inclusive. And I want to preface and say that this decision was not made lightly. Obviously, the decision to make it was not based on excluding any individuals. It wasn't based on malice, nothing of the sort. The decision was based on the simple fact that I have been assaulted inside of a gym. That is why I stand here as a women's only gym owner. I was inside of a gym, which means a lot of trauma and a lot of emotion and well-being is behind this project.
Which I wholeheartedly sympathize with that. Like, I understand why you'd want to keep your gym to be an only women's space, but you cannot be saying that it's a space for only women and then in that moment say also, I'm going to exclude trans women because, you know, they're not women. I support them, but they're not biological women, which is such a hypocritical thing to do, dude. Like, you want to make a safe space for all women, yet you're excluding this marginalized group. And so what? Now you're telling me that trans men will be allowed into your gym because they're biological females by your definition?
Or do something like that if you're not one of these people. Apart from being very disappointing transphobia, there's nothing transphobic about a woman wanting to have a space for biological women. Biological women and trans women are different. They are. It's just that's why they're called trans women, right? That's just how it is. And there's a difference between sex and gender. And this is basically discriminating based off of sex and not gender. Now, my personal viewpoint is that socially, I'm fine with treating trans women as women. But the thing is that when it comes to genuine sexual differences like sports or like being in a locker room with somebody, these transcend a gender norm. These transcend the cultural idea of gender and they go into the base idea of sex. And in that circumstance, I think you absolutely should make decisions based off of that if you feel comfortable doing so. I don't think that there's a right answer for this, but the wrong answer is telling somebody else they have the wrong answer. That's my opinion. This is what radicalizes people, because any normal, well-reasoned, well-intentioned, good person can clearly see the difference between a biological woman and a trans woman. So anybody who's turning this into an attack on this person is willfully, dishonestly, and intentionally completely disregarding reality. And they're doing so in a hostile way that's hurtful. Little bro's not fooling anyone. No. And I think this is the reason why you see this level of extremism.
And then he goes through his classic talking point again, saying it's extremism to include trans people in a women-only gym. Which, again, Asmon, please do explain to us, how is it extreme for trans women to be included in women-only spaces? And I swear, the amount of times he brings up that buzzword, biological, I swear to you, I do not know why, but transphobes love using that word biological when they're like debating about trans issues. It's like anytime they just say biological, they just get a transphobic hard-on for saying that word.
Biological women.
A biological woman.
A biological woman.
Biological woman.
I'm getting hard again.
Of this community, Ouroborosing it itself. Like, it's eating itself and it's hurting itself. Because if you don't understand the reason why women want a women's only gym and you're trying to convince them that no, you don't know what you want, in my opinion, you're no different than the men that are saying that, well, I think, that women shouldn't be able to have a women's only gym. You're just the same.
Yeah, so exclude the men from the gym and allow all women into the gym, both cis and trans women. That's it. Problem solved. That's all you have to do. And that's another thing. He really loves using that word, biological woman, biological male. What exactly is a biological woman? Because when you ask a transphobe what a biological woman is, they'll probably have two different answers for you. A biological woman is an adult human female, or a biological woman is someone who can give birth, or a biological woman is someone with XX chromosomes, or a biological woman is someone assigned female at birth. This is such a dumb definition for what a biological woman is, because there are people out there who are assigned female at birth, such as trans men, and yet they don't identify as women. Like, you're telling me someone like Brian Michael Smith, who was assigned female at birth but identifies as a man and presents as a man, is by transphobes' definition a biological woman. You wanna let this dude into the women's restroom? So dumb. Or let's look at the other definition. A biological woman is someone who can give birth. This is another extremely dumb definition for what a woman is, or what a biological woman is. Because there are cisgender women out there who are infertile. There's even cisgender women out there who are born without a uterus or a functioning uterus. Such as women like Grace Davidson, a woman who was born without a functioning uterus. But thanks to a sister who was able to donate her uterus to Grace, she was eventually able to give birth. So now you have Grace Davidson, a cisgender woman who was assigned female at birth, who was born without a uterus. So now, would she be excluded from what a biological woman is, since she has no uterus? Plus, intersex people exist, you know.
I am a biological male, yet I don't look like a male. I don't grow body hair. I don't have a penis. I was born with a vagina, kind of. What the hell? That's really confusing, right? Not to worry. Allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Bloom, and I'm intersex. Intersex is when you are born without meeting the criteria of male and female, in a medical or societal way anyway. If you think of male and female and all of the things that make up males and all of the things that make up females, there's two categories, and each category has different attributes on it. Well, when you're intersex, you actually have a mixture of these attributes.
And transphobes love saying that, oh, intersex people are like a rare amount. There's a rare amount of intersex people. When intersex people make up 1% of the human population, which is similar to the amount of people born with red hair and green eyes.
Look into my eyes.
Again, this hardline definition of what a biological woman is does nothing but exclude women. Not just trans women, but any other woman who doesn't fit this obscure definition, which allows them to be so discriminatory towards women who do not fit in this obscure label, such as women like Ilana Mar, who has gotten a slew of hateful and derogatory comments saying that she's a biological man because of her physical appearance.
I'm gonna be very real here for a second. As you can probably tell, I've been crying a little bit. I always get these comments, but like recently it kind of ramped up. Was I get comments being called a man and being called masculine and asking if I'm on steroids. There will always be negative people out there, and they put women in a box, and they think of women should be fragile and petite and quiet and meek, but that's not the case. Women can be strong, and they can have broad shoulders, and they can take up space, and they can be big. I think I'm getting emotional because I feel very passionate about this. Don't let anybody try to define or dictate how you feel about yourself. You get to decide that. I feel feminine, so I am feminine, and I believe that. Keep shining, keep being you, and remember, your body is perfect. Big, small, tall, short, whatever body you're in, that's the body of a woman.
When trying to define what a biological woman is, it's quite honestly a redundant question, because there is no hardline definition of what a woman is. Like, honestly, dude, whenever I hear this question, I just simply say, oh, what's a woman? A gender identity. That's literally it. That's all what a woman is. It's just a gender identity. It's no different than asking someone, what's the color red? It's the color red, dude. It's just a color. And this whole debate of what a biological woman is led to the Supreme Court ruling that trans women are not biological women, which translates to trans women will not be afforded the same rights that women are granted. And of course, Asmons saw this and he was like, this is a huge W for common sense, whatever that means.
UK Supreme Court says that only women born as female will have access to women-only services such as female-only prisons, housing for abused women, and not anyone who's changed their gender. This is like somebody telling you that, in fact, a rectangle is not a triangle. And like, think about if there has been a geometry debate for the last 10 years, and there's been a group of people that have been just adamant, militant, vicious, aggressive, out for blood to tell you that a rectangle is a fucking triangle. And finally, somebody says, no, it's not. It's actually a rectangle. This is a huge victory for, what do you call it? A huge victory for common sense. Massive victory for common sense, especially in the UK. You don't get a whole lot of those.
Because this ruling just does nothing but target the most marginalized group. How is this at all fair to trans people? The ruling literally states that trans women are not viewed the same as cisgender women, which means they will not be receiving the same protections as cisgender women, which will cause a rise in discrimination and also violence towards trans people. Because Stop Hate UK, which monitors attacks on minority groups in the country, reports that there have been an estimated 2,630 hate crimes against transgender people in the year 2021. Now imagine how much more harassment and discrimination trans people will be receiving, especially trans women will be receiving because of this new ruling by the Supreme Court.
Well, huge win for common sense. LOL, what? The UK did that? Surprise. Yeah, I know. It's a great thing. A rare bit of good news from the UK. And before the Supreme Court is arrested for that offense. And women-only services. So, like, there's a lot of services, like, for example, like female-only prisons, housing for abused women. So the fact is that these services exist because of the intrinsic nature they have of being segregated. Like, again, there's a reason why you have female-only prisons. There's a reason why there is housing that is just for abused women. And, like, that's it. And you might not think that's fair because it's discrimination, but everybody that knows that it makes sense, right? Everybody, like, you gotta be out of, that's me, not you, sorry. You gotta be out of your fucking mind to think that it's not. And so anyway,
the reason why it's important to keep trans women in women's prisons, because in men's prisons, they are 13 times more likely to be assaulted when placed in a men's prison. Trans women are not at all safe when placed in a male prison. Later, there are stories of trans women who have assaulted by both inmates and correctional officers. And I know the cope that transos will most likely say is saying that, oh, they deserve it, they're a criminal, who cares about criminals? But I don't see you saying the same thing for cisgender criminals, okay? They're little cisgender women who are convicted for crimes. But I don't see people saying, okay, yeah, put those cisgender women in a men's prison. That makes absolutely no sense. And also with this ruling, trans women will also be excluded from women's shelters, which is incredibly discriminatory because trans women are way more likely to face domestic violence, especially from their partners.
The single-sex spaces that will be affected because of this ruling include women's bathrooms, changing wards, hostels, sports clubs, and even more insidious, hospital wards, prisons, and domestic violence shelters. There is so much evidence that shows that trans people are actually disproportionately the target of domestic violence and domestic assault. So we need these resources as well. But the argument against it is that cis women or natal-born women, whatever you want to call them, have a right to not have a man in their shelter or in their space. This is simply bullying to bully. Trans women are not men. We are not threats to cisgender women. Firstly, reducing us down to our body parts is not very feminist of you, feminist group. But secondly, trans women should not have to be refused shelter and die in the streets because you're uncomfortable with the fact that I'm trans. I'm sorry. Does that make any fucking sense? Life is uncomfortable. If anybody knows that, it's the trans community, okay? If you're not in danger, get over it.
So it's incredibly gross for Asmongold to be in full support of this Supreme Court ruling because it does nothing but exclude trans women as women and restrict them of any protections. And this could lead to an increase in hate towards trans people, especially trans women now.
Sports! 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 Sports, 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 sports!
Stephanie Turner, a fencer who went up against a trans woman who then took a knee, stating that she would not go up against her opponent because she is a biological male.
Taking a knee?
You know, there is a member on the board of directors here who supports me, and there is a policy that acknowledges me as a woman, so I am allowed to fence. And you will get black carded, is what trans rival Redmond Sullivan told Stephanie Turner, who took a knee in protest. After refusing to compete, Turner was issued a black card by fencing officials, which suspended her from the competition. The controversial decision has sparked outrage on social media among users left dismayed by a female athlete being punished for choosing not to line up against a biological male. In an exclusive interview with DailyMail.com, Fencing star Turner revealed she has been scared to reach out to USA Fencing with her concerns, given the pro-trans views of high-ranking officials within the governing body. I don't even want to reach out because if I do, then I won't ever have a fair bout in my life.
This is what needs to happen is that the other people that are competitors need to support her. Because it doesn't really matter what the administration thinks, but if you have a bunch of people that are refusing to compete, then there's no, like, how can you be an administrator for something that's not happening? Well, then your job disappears.
The clip of her opposing to go up against her opponent comes off as really performative because she made it a habit to always avoid entering tournaments that had trans athletes registered to be in them. She didn't even have to go up against Sullivan. She literally could have pulled out of the event anytime she wanted to, but she chose to pull that stunt, which she knew would absolutely go viral and get all the attention focused on her, which she successfully did because now she literally got an interview on Fox News, got to speak in front of the Doge Committee about women's sports, and she even got paid by receiving a $5,000 prize by a sports brand that opposes transgender athletes competing in women's sports. And another thing which just shows like this person is just transphobic, and she's only done this because her opponent was trans and she definitely knew that by doing this stunt it would get a lot of media coverage. A week prior to this event that she pulled the stunt at, she attended a mixed event where she went up against 4 cisgender men and she beat all 4 of them, placing 8th out of 32 fences. And you mean to tell me that she wouldn't go up against Sullivan because she's trans and trans women have an advantage in sports, yet she went up against 4 cisgender men, and the real person who's being actually discriminated against in this whole story is Sullivan. She hasn't been able to compete in women's sports because of Trump's executive orders. But no, the real victim here is obviously Stephanie Turner, the woman who denied going up against Sullivan, which then got her insane amount of media coverage and got her paid for just being transphobic towards a trans athlete. And research has gone to show that trans women do not have a unique advantage when competing against cisgender women. It's been shown in so many studies. Because of the effects of HRT on trans women's bodies, reports show that these advantages that trans women are accused of having are greatly reduced because of the effects of HRT on their bodies. It's also so dumb to want to ban all trans people from competing in sports because they make up such a small amount of athletes within sports. And transphobia in sports doesn't only affect trans people, it also affects cisgender women, especially women of color. 6 African women were excluded from the Olympics in 2020 because they all didn't meet the eligibility regulations due to their naturally occurring testosterone levels and appearance. This is the thing, because transphobia in women's sports just dictates which women can participate in women's sports and which can. But the same is not said for men. And Asmongold has said the same thing.
The question is, should somebody who has these levels of testosterone or potentially XY chromosomes, like if somebody is born with like a certain genetic variance that makes them more closer to the other gender, do they still compete with their gender? There are a lot of other people that have abnormalities, right? So like you have Michael Phelps. He had Marfan syndrome, which made his limbs longer, made it better for him to swim. And you look at Thor, right? You know, Thor the Mountain, not for Pirate Software. Yeah, Andre the Giant. The spectrum in which people can exist in is massive. So like at what point do you draw the line of like when a genetic defect becomes an advantage versus whenever it's an unfair cheat? So this is my opinion, right? I think it's a bad idea to have trans women compete against biological women in sports. I see this and I say, wow, this seems really unfair, right? It's like, you know, somebody has like a completely different bone structure, their skeleton's different, they have different testosterone levels, like the different musculature. As somebody who is in favor of that, or not in favor of that, I guess in this case, I don't think that a person like this should compete. I don't think so.
What? Oh God! No, oh God! On, oh, what? Dude! Come on! Dude! No! No! Come on, man! Just be normal.
But he still had to end his point off by saying, even though these dudes over here, right, these men right here, have these genetic advantages, I still think Imam Khalif should not be participating in women's sports. Like, that's a clear-cut example of transphobia affecting cisgender women as well. He literally just proved my point. And Imam Khalif was such a huge target in the 2024 Olympics by transphobes. Even J.K. Rowling, the woman who says, I want to defend all biological women and exclude all trans women, targeted Iman saying that she's a man man. Even Trump, the dude who says, I'm gonna protect women's sports and keep all transgender women out of women's sports, literally called her a man as well. And never in my life did I think I'd see a transphobe arguing that transgender women should not be included in esports as well. I don't know how anyone can get a biological advantage from competing in esports, but apparently transphobia will make you that brain broken.
This has been insane. Like, really surprised to see this, but they even have whole teams. Like, there's a whole team of people that are trans. Is this tournament for women? All women, yeah, all women tournament.
Just for context, this is what the Heads Up, Asmon's employer. I'll take this one.
Now this is a really stupid argument because Asmon was saying that this team of trans women should have been excluded from the esports event, which is absolutely ridiculous because last I checked, men do not have any biological advantages that make them good at games, since he's obviously viewing them as men right now. Because this is so stupid to argue about because none of the competitors in the event were complaining about the Supernova team competing within the event. It was mainly coming from viewers who I bet don't even care about women's sports. I don't even know why people were complaining about this because Supernova SN Comets, they literally lost the event. They were beat by a cisgender women's team. And because of all the transphobia and hate the team was receiving, one of the members from the team, Lucy, took to Twitter and made this tweet. I poured my heart and soul into this game and I've tried so hard to get better, and yet all I get told is to myself. I'm so tired of seeing all the hate every day. I just want to be left alone and treated like a human being doing what I love. But thankfully, one of the members from the team she went up against, Karina, replied to her tweet with supportive encouragement, telling her rival, you played amazing and that ancient was crazy. Hope one day the world can be better. Oh goodness, thank God for her. Seeing this tweet just boosted my faith in humanity just a little bit.
Alright, back to you, Zachary.
Of trans people. Whenever I look at this kind of stuff happen and I see the way that people respond, I just can't see this lasting. Because like now people are reacting to this in such a negative way. This is just my opinion. I think that anything that's reserved for women should be reserved for biological women. Because if gender is a construct, then this is not a construct, right? Make a trans league. Well, usually, and this is what happens, right? Is the reason why you have women's leagues with a lot of sports is because women just simply can't perform at the same level that men can.
Another thing is that I just really do not get why Asmon even talks about women's sports. In all honesty, he does not care about women's sports. If there isn't anything about trans people in there, he doesn't really care. And he's shown that he doesn't care.
What more would you want to see for women's sports?
Us getting paid our worth.
Period.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're doing exactly what LeBron is doing. So, what's going on?
Sis,
I don't
they
like
ain't got
that.
the money for us just yet. But it's coming. It's coming.
Is it? I don't understand
it's
it.
a lot.
What is the word where like two dumb get together and then they become dumber? Oh, it's called a podcast. Oh my God. If y'all don't give us what we want, we sitting out. Women's basketball star, we should be getting paid like NBA players.
What does that mean? We deserve more.
Of course,
Everybody.
I agree.
Everybody.
I agree with that.
I'm hearing like, yeah, they don't give us, if y'all don't give us what
they want to get paid the same amount as NBA players. Now, I could not even begin to imagine why they're not being paid the same amount of money as NBA players. Why could that possibly be? I wonder why they're not getting paid any money. Man, what could be the reason?
What does that mean? We deserve more.
Because the real reason as to why women's basketball is not as well funded compared to men's basketball is because of the lack of media coverage. And because of this lack of media coverage, this then makes investors prioritize funding for men other than women because they see it as a risky business.
On the women's side, we give them a fraction of the money, a fraction of the time, and then lament the fact that they aren't profitable just a few seasons in. We also need more media coverage, which again, most of you already know. When the Big Three basketball league started, Fox Sports 1 agreed to broadcast all the games. They didn't have to do anything to prove they had an audience. Meanwhile, it took the NWSL 4 seasons to secure a regular broadcast slot with A&E, and even then, most of the games were not on TV. And putting women's sports on TV, that's just the bare minimum. We need the same consistent and comprehensive coverage that you see on the men's side for the women's.
But of course, you're not going to talk about that because you don't actually care about women's sports. And neither do I. I don't even care about sports at all. But I'm only addressing this because you're someone who positions himself as someone who cares about women's sports, but only covering women's sports when there's trans people in it.
For my own benefit. If we are not willing to protect those that can't protect themselves, female sports is done. Leah Thomas, whatever.
The female sports is done. There is going to be a wave. This wave has been coming, boys. There's going to be a wave of trans athletes just ripping through the ranks. Just clapping cheeks left and right, dude. It's done. It's over. This is the other reason why I always say you don't give even if that was the case, you literally do not care. The only reason why you care is because, once again, trans women are involved in this. And you just hate trans people. You've never cared about women's sports. You will never care about women's sports. You just don't care about the integrity of anything. You're just using this as yet another opportunity to virtue signal as though you care about this.
You're literally just like every transphobe ever did. Talks about women's sports when there's trans women involved. But when it comes to the actual issues, you'll either mock them or just keep quiet. Because if you actually care about women's sports, you'd actually address the actual issues within women's sports, which such as sexism, unequal pay, unfair treatment, as well as assault.
On est dans des inégalités salariales qui sont énormes. Le salaire moyen d'une joueuse de WNBA était 110 fois moins élevé qu'un collègue masculin de NBA. Voilà, on a un petit aperçu des inégalités.
From the players that we surveyed, which were 362 players across 6 continents across the world, who played in the World Cup qualification pathways for the World Cup 2023, there were huge disparities within the wages that players received to compete for their national team. 29% of players were not paid at all for this competition, and that meant that 66% of players had to take unpaid leave or vacation from another form of occupation in order to compete in the World Cup qualifiers.
Inequalities in the world of sports are not limited to income. Training conditions for female players also require improvements. Female athletes say they've received hand-me-downs from the men's team.
Nous, les femmes, on récolte souvent les miettes qui restent chez les garçons. Tous les équipements qui restent chez les garçons et qui sont par exemple trop grands ou trop petits chez les garçons, bah, c'est ce que nous, on va récupérer. Donc typiquement, moi j'ai des copines qui jouaient au FC Nantes il y a pas si longtemps que ça et qui récupéraient les chaussettes en taille 43 qui restaient chez les garçons. J'étais témoin de la misogynie ambiante qui règne dans ce milieu. On gagne que 3-0 à la mi-temps. Celui qui nous entraîne est extrêmement mécontent de ce score et finit par nous menacer clairement de viol en fait. Et il nous regarde comme ça une à une en nous désignant du doigt et il nous dit vous voulez faire les salopes avec moi, je vais toutes vous baiser une par une.
The end is near. The end is near. The end is near. 4-hour discount sale, so hurry up.
I think that a lot of people try to transition their kids for social points. I think that these people do a tremendous disservice to the trans community. And the inclusion, like in every single other instance of physical expression, that actually gender does matter and men come out on top. Transphobia. There's nothing transphobic about a woman wanting to have a space for biological women. But problem is they consider not thinking them as biological women as harassment. Well, they're not biological women. If they, I don't know, like this is like, if I say it in the wrong way, people are going to interpret it as I hate trans people, which is obviously not true.
After going through all those videos of Asmongold talking about trans people and hearing how he speaks about trans people, I realized that he's not an ally, not in the slightest bit. I do not know what copium I was huffing on thinking that this dude over here was an ally to trans people. He just gives the most right-wing takes on trans people, thinking that they're the most moderate takes that will eventually lead to trans people being treated equally if they just act normal, whatever that means for him. All I have to say is this: Asmongold, you don't care about trans people. If you did, you put in way more effort to understand the struggles of trans people, and you put in way more effort to stand up for trans people, and especially stand up for them right now, because the Trump administration is actively trying to take away the rights of trans people. But no, it's way easier for you to just sip on your Dr. Pepper while you and your chat just spew transphobia at any trans issue that's relevant for that day. Anyway, that's all I'd say about this. Okay, bye.
Wear me out like butter.